I found a shivering alien in my cabin, and she thought I was the monster. The snow was falling hard when Elias returned to his mountain cabin. Wind howled between the tall pine trees, and his boots sank deep with every step. He carried a heavy bag of supplies on his back, cans, firewood, and warm clothes. It had taken him 3 days to reach the nearest town and come back. He was tired and just wanted to get inside, light the fire, and rest. But as he reached the door of his wooden cabin, he froze. The door was open, just a little. He remembered clearly that he had locked it before leaving. Now cold wind pushed it back and forth, making it creak ominously. Elias stepped inside slowly, his breath turning white in the frigid air. The fireplace was warm. There were ashes, fresh ones. Someone had used it. He dropped his bag by the door, instantly alert. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. He scanned the small living room. Nothing looked broken. Nothing stolen, but on the table was a half-eaten piece of bread. It wasn't his. Then he saw them. Footprints. Small. Bare. They led from the fireplace across the room and vanished near the hallway. Elias crouched down to examine them more closely. The prints were strange. The toes were too long, the shape too thin. These weren't human feet. His heart beat faster. Someone or something was in his cabin. He moved slowly, carefully toward the hallway. He opened the bathroom, empty. The closet, empty. Only one room left. His bedroom. He stepped in cautiously. The window was shut, the bed untouched. But still something felt wrong. He stood still and listened. Then he heard it, a breath quick and quiet, scared, coming from under the bed. Elias knelt down and looked. At first he saw only darkness, then eyes, glowing pale blue, wide with fear. A shape curled up tightly beneath the bed. Small, thin, female. Alien. She looked no older than 20, her skin pale with soft scale-like patterns. Her long white hair was messy and dirty. She wore a torn gray cloth that barely covered her. Her body shook as she stared at him. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Elias didn't move either. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. She said nothing. He backed away, slowly, and stood up. "I'll go make tea," he added, then left the room. This wasn't what he'd expected to find in his sanctuary, but something told him this frightened creature needed help more than he needed solitude. Part 2. Building trust. Elias lit the fire again and placed a kettle on it. He sat down on the floor, away from the door where she could see him, and waited. 10 minutes passed, then he heard soft steps. When he looked up, she was standing near the hallway, still shaking, still afraid, but watching. He reached slowly and placed a cup of tea on the floor between them. She didn't come forward. He didn't speak. They sat in silence, watching the fire. She moved after 20 minutes. Without a sound, she stepped forward, took the cup, and backed away. Her hands were trembling. She sniffed the tea, then sipped it. Elias said nothing, just watched. She drank slowly, carefully, like she hadn't had warmth in a long time. That night, Elias set up the guest bed in the corner. He placed clean blankets on it and a loaf of bread on the table. Then he turned off the lights and lay down on his own bed. He didn't hear her move, but when he opened his eyes an hour later, she was gone from under the bed. She was curled up, asleep in the corner, blanket over her. Snow kept falling outside, and for the first time in a long time, Elias didn't feel alone. The next morning, the corner bed was empty, blankets gone. The teacup from last night was still on the table, the bread eaten, all of it. But the girl was nowhere in sight. He found her back under the bed, curled tightly again, arms wrapped around herself. He sat beside the bed, not too close. "You came out last night," he said softly. "That's okay. I'm not angry. You can come out again. I'll stay here if you want." Still no reply. Minutes passed. He heard her breathing, nervous, shaky. "I'm Elias," he said. "I live here. I built this cabin." More silence. Then a whisper so soft he almost didn't catch it. Lura. His eyes widened. She had spoken. Lura. He repeated gently. That's your name? She didn't answer again, but he saw her shoulder shift just slightly. A small nod. I'm glad to meet you, Lura. Later that morning he made food. Soft potatoes boiled, with salt. He placed a bowl on the floor by the fire, then sat down at the table far away. He didn't look at her, didn't rush, just waited. 10 minutes later she crept out, quiet as a shadow. She took the bowl and sat on the floor near the fireplace, hugging the warmth. She didn't speak, but ate slowly, watching Elias with caution in her eyes. When she finished, she put the bowl down and walked back to the shadows, back under the bed. But something had shifted between them, the first fragile thread of trust. Part 3. Gentle Healing. The same thing happened the next day, and the next. Each time she came out a little sooner, each time she sat a little closer. She never looked him in the eye, but she no longer ran when he moved. On the fourth day, Elias placed a small brush beside the tea. He said nothing. Later he found it, gone, and the next time she came out, her hair was neater. Not clean yet, not smooth, but no longer tangled and wild. That night he smiled. She was trying. But something still haunted her. Elias saw it in her eyes every time the wind howled, every time a branch tapped the window, every time he lit the fire too fast or dropped something by accident. She flinched. Her whole body shook like she expected pain. Like pain was normal, for her. One evening while she sat near the fire, Elias stood up to put more wood in. He stepped too close. She gasped and scrambled backward, almost falling. Elias froze. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean to scare you. She looked away, biting her lip. He knelt slowly and set the log down gently, then sat on the floor, far from her. I won't come near unless you want me to. Her hands trembled, but she nodded. That night he left a soft wool scarf near her bed. In the morning it was wrapped around her neck, and for the first time she looked at him, not for long, but long enough. Her eyes were sad, tired, but not afraid. She was still hiding, but not from him anymore. She was hiding from the world, and maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe this small cabin deep in the snowy mountains could be a place where no one would hurt her. Days passed. Snow kept falling. Lura still didn't speak much, not in full sentences, only a word here and there, but Elias didn't mind. He spoke gently, telling stories while he chopped firewood or cooked meals. He told her about his dog who once lived here, about the big storm last year, about the day he decided to live far from everyone. She listened quietly, sitting near the fireplace, always watching. She was like a ghost, slowly becoming human again. She still flinched at loud sounds, still froze when he got too close, but she stopped hiding under the bed. Now she claimed a corner of the cabin as her space. She slept on the guest bed, ate from her own bowl, wore the scarf every day. And Elias noticed something else. She mimicked him. When he folded his blanket, she folded hers. When he stirred soup, she copied the motion with her spoon. Even when he yawned, she yawned a few seconds later, like a child learning to be someone else. One morning, Elias sat at the table with an old book in hand. He looked up and found her staring at it, curious. He smiled and pushed the book toward her. It's a story, he said. She touched the pages like they were made of glass, slowly turned them. Her eyes moved across the words, unsure. You know these letters? He asked gently. She gave a tiny nod. So he opened to the first page and read aloud, a short children's tale about a bird learning to fly again after its wings were hurt. Her eyes stayed on the page. She said nothing, but when he closed the book, her hands didn't let go. She kept it that night. That evening, as Elias cleaned dishes, he heard something soft behind him, a sound like music. He turned. She was humming, very low, very soft, almost like a whisper. But it was a tune, not words, just a feeling, and it was the most beautiful thing he had heard in weeks. Was that a song? He asked, drying his hands. She stopped, looked nervous, then nodded once. You sing. She looked away. I'd like to hear it again sometime. Laura hugged her scarf tighter and walked back to the fire. The next night, she left something for him. It wasn't much, just a small stone, round, smooth, blue. She placed it on the table beside his cup and didn't say a word, but Elias understood. She was thanking him. He began leaving little gifts too, a fresh piece of cloth, warm socks, a wooden comb. She accepted each one with careful hands. Sometimes she nodded, sometimes she didn't. But slowly, piece by piece, she became part of the cabin like she belonged there. But something still lived in her eyes. Fear, not of him, something else, something far away. One night she stood at the window and stared into the snowy woods, her fingers gripping the curtain tightly. Elias watched her from behind. "Are you waiting for someone?" he asked softly. She shook her head, but her hands were shaking again. Elias didn't push. He just stepped into the kitchen and started boiling tea. As he placed her cup near the fire, she finally spoke a full sentence, quiet and broken. "They hurt many before me." Elias froze, then slowly sat across from her. "I'm sorry." Laura looked down. She added, "I was taken, sold, returned many times." His heart ached. He didn't ask who took her or how many or what they did. She was here now. That was all that mattered. "You're safe here," he said. "No one will hurt you again." She looked at him longer this time, then gave the smallest, softest smile. It didn't last, but it was real, and Elias knew her voice was broken but not lost. She was learning how to live again, not by running, but by staying. It happened on a quiet evening. The fire was soft and the wind outside had finally calmed after days of snow. Elias was sewing a torn jacket. Laura sat by the fire, her scarf wrapped around her shoulders, staring into the flames. She had been speaking more these past few days, simple words, short answers, but never about her past, never about the pain. Until that night. She reached out to stir the soup pot. The scarf slipped from her shoulder, and Elias saw it. His hands froze. Her arm, thin and pale, was covered in deep, faded scars. One ran across her elbow, another near her wrist. Some were sharp like blade cuts, others round, burned in place. Elias didn't say anything, but Laura noticed. Her eyes widened. She quickly pulled the scarf back up, then stood and backed away from him, shaking. "It's okay," Elias said quietly, raising both hands. "I didn't see anything. I'm not angry." But she was breathing fast, stepping back to the corner of the cabin, hugging herself tightly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. Tears filled her glowing eyes. "I'm used," she said. Elias stood but didn't come close. "I don't care where you've been," he said. "I care that you're here safe." She looked down. "I was returned," she whispered. "Many times. I couldn't cook, couldn't clean right. I cried too much. They called me broken." Her voice cracked. Elias's heart broke a little with every word. He slowly walked to the table, picked up a cup, poured tea, placed it near her side of the fire, then stepped back. "I made extra," he said gently, "if you want." She didn't move right away, but after a long minute, she walked over, sat down, and took the cup. The room was quiet again, the only sound the soft crackle of fire. She took a slow sip. "I thought you'd yell," she said. "I don't yell," he replied. "They always did when I was too slow or too quiet. You're not in that place anymore." She looked up. "Where am I?" "In my home," Elias said, "and it's your home too, if you want it." She stared at him for a long time, then very slowly, she pulled her sleeves back, not to hide the scars, but to show them. All of them. Her arms, her shoulders. Each line was a story, a memory, a wound that had never healed. Elias looked, but not with fear, not with judgment, only pain in his eyes and something deeper. "You survived all this," he said. She nodded. "I didn't want to," she whispered. "But you did." She nodded again, and then she started to cry, real tears, not silent, not hidden. Loud, broken sobs that shook her whole body. Years of pain poured out, and Elias sat there saying nothing, just listening. When she was done, she looked up, eyes red, voice shaking. "Why are you kind to me?" Elias smiled gently. "Because someone should have been a long time ago." The next morning brought an ominous change. The sky turned red at sunrise, and by afternoon, a deep hum filled the air. Not thunder, not wind. A ship, big and black, hovered above the trees, like a shadow. A warship. Elias dropped his axe and ran inside. Lura was already standing, gripping the edge of the table, her glowing eyes wide with terror. "They're here," she whispered. "They won't take you," Elias said, grabbing his rifle from the wall. "No," she said firmly. "They'll kill you. You don't understand. That ship is not for capture. It's for erasing." "What do you mean?" "They're not here to bring me back. They're here to make sure I never speak." Lura's voice grew strong, resolute. "I won't run anymore, not from them." They stepped outside together. The ship began to land in the clearing beyond the trees. Metal touched ice. Steam rose. Doors hissed open. 3 tall, masked soldiers stepped out, weapons already drawn. Lura stepped forward, her voice ringing clear across the snow. "I am Lurantai. Feldikari, and I am not your slave." One soldier stopped, removed her mask, a woman with cold, calculating eyes. "You should have stayed hidden, princess." "I did," Lura replied. "But someone made me feel human again." The battle was swift and fierce. Elias fired first, missing but creating enough distraction for Lura to move. She was faster than he'd ever imagined, dodging and striking with surprising strength. She'd been hiding her true abilities this whole time. When the last soldier fell and their ship exploded in flames, Lura walked back slowly, her arm bleeding but her spirit finally free. "You could leave now," Elias said later as he stitched her wound. "They won't come again." She looked at the mountains, then at him, and shook her head. "No, this is my home now." "Are you sure?" "I don't want to hide anymore," she said. "And I don't want to be anywhere else but here with you." That night she didn't sit across the fire. She sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket, leaning her head on his shoulder. Snow fell quietly outside. The stars watched in silence, and for the first time in her life, Lura was truly free. In the warmth of the cabin, surrounded by the quiet strength of the man who had shown her what kindness meant, she finally understood what home felt like. Not a place to hide, but a place to belong. Not just survival, but love. The alien princess had found her sanctuary, and the lonely mountain man had found his heart's companion. In the depths of winter, against all odds, 2 broken souls had healed each other and discovered something neither had dared hope for. A love that could overcome any darkness.